All right, for decades, the world has pretty much played by one set of rules. But what happens when nearly half the planet decides to just throw out the old rulebook and write a new one? We're talking about an alliance that people used to laugh off as just a Wall Street acronym. Now, it's challenging everything. So the big question is, are we watching a new world order being born, or is this the beginning of a massive global showdown?
And look, this isn't just some high-level political chess match that doesn't affect you. No. The rules we're talking about, they decide everything, like the price of your gas, the phone in your pocket, all of it. For a long time, the West has kind of been the referee in this global game. But now, there's a whole new team on the field. And trust me, they're not just here to play along. They want to change the entire game.
Okay, I want you to just forget everything you think you know about global power for a second. Just look at this number, 45%. That's the percentage of the entire world's population now represented by this one group. We are so past calling this a club. This is more like a force of nature. We're talking about almost 1 out of every 2 people on this planet. So, who exactly is in this supergroup? Well, you've got the OGs, the original heavyweights, right? Brazil, the commodity powerhouse, Russia with its military might, India, the demographic giant, China, the economic titan, and South Africa, the gateway to the continent. But here's where it gets interesting. They just invited a bunch of new players to the party, and some of them are, shall we say, complicated. You've got historic rivals like Egypt and Ethiopia now sitting at the same table, plus the controversial powerhouse Iran. And the line to get in is still growing. We're talking giants like Saudi Arabia and Turkey basically knocking on the door. It is getting very crowded in there. But listen, it's not just about the sheer number of people. It's about raw power. This bloc, this BRICS Plus, now controls more than a third of the entire global economy. Let that sink in. Oh, and if that wasn't enough, how about this? They control 30% of the world's oil. This isn't just a symbolic pat on the back. This is them putting their hands firmly on the world's economic steering wheel.
Okay, but here's the twist. With all this power comes a ton of conflict. This is not one big happy family. Nope. Inside this massive economic alliance, there's basically a civil war brewing. You've got 2 camps, 2 factions, with totally different ideas about the future. And honestly, they're tearing this whole thing apart from the inside out.
So this is basically the battle for the soul of BRICS. In one corner, you've got what we'll call the reformers. Think Brazil and India. Their goal, pretty simple. Reform the current system, get a bigger, better seat at the global table. But in the other corner, you've got the revolutionaries. We're talking Russia, China, and Iran. And they don't want a seat at the old table. They want to flip the table over, smash it to bits, and build a completely new one.
And this quote right here from the Carnegie Endowment, it just nails the billion-dollar question that's keeping diplomats up at night. Is this whole BRICS thing a move away from the West? Like, hey, we're just going to do our own thing over here. Or is it a move against the West, as in we're building an alliance to take you down? The difference between those 2 little words, away versus against, is basically the difference between a more balanced world and, well, a new Cold War.
And believe me, this isn't just some theoretical debate. We've actually seen this tug of war play out in real time. Their last 2 big summits, it was like watching 2 totally different movies starring the exact same actors. Okay, check this out. First, in October 2024, they meet in Kazan, Russia. The host, Putin, uses it as a stage to push this very anti-Western vision. It was all about uniting the global majority against the West. Super confrontational. Then, fast forward to July 2025, the summit is in Rio, Brazil, and it's like the entire script got flipped. Brazil and India are running the show, and suddenly the agenda is all about reform, the green transition, cooperation. All that anti-West talk? Gone. So what on earth happened? Well, the answer is pretty simple, actually. It's all about who didn't show up. The 2 leaders of that revolutionary faction, Russia's Putin and China's Xi Jinping, both of them skipped the Rio summit. With the 2 biggest anti-Western voices out of the room, the reformers, led by Brazil and India, had their moment. They grabbed the steering wheel and swerved in a totally different direction. So with all this internal drama and chaos, let's get real for a second. Can BRICS Plus actually challenge the West in a meaningful way? Or is this whole thing a giant with feet of clay? Turns out there are some pretty big weaknesses here. You could even call them fatal flaws that could bring the whole project down. All right, weakness number 1, and it is a big one. The US dollar is still king. For all the tough talk about de-dollarization, here's the dirty secret. Every single BRICS country is completely hooked on the dollar.
The entire global financial system runs on it. Trying to unplug from that overnight, it'd be like trying to change a tire on a car that's going 100 miles an hour. It's not just risky, it's financial suicide.
I mean, think about it like this. BRICS might be building a brand new fancy car, but the G7 still owns all the gas stations. This quote from the Kiel Institute says it all. They remain totally dependent on the financial stability of the very countries they claim to be challenging. They literally can't tear the system down without setting their own houses on fire in the process. Okay, weakness number 2. Who's actually in charge here? I mean, every successful group needs a leader, right? Someone who can steer the ship and, pick up the tab sometimes. For decades, the West had the US in that role. Who does BRICS Plus have? The answer is nobody. There's a massive leadership vacuum right at the center of this thing. There's actually a term for this. It's benevolent hegemon. It sounds complicated, but it just means a leader who is willing and able to provide stability and absorb costs for the good of the group. Think of it as the person who pays the dinner bill for everyone to keep the party going. Now, China is by far the biggest economy in BRICS, but it doesn't seem to want that role. It's often more focused on its own interests, which means it can't be the leader this group really needs. And the third and final weakness? To put it bluntly, a lot of these countries just don't like each other. In this rush to get bigger and add more members, BRICS invited countries that are actual historic rivals. So instead of creating a stronger, more unified team, they've basically just invited a whole lot more drama into the locker room. And I mean, the list of conflicts is just wow. You've got the massive rivalry between India and China, who are constantly at odds. You've got new members, Egypt and Ethiopia, literally trying to block each other at the United Nations. You have Iran with foreign policy goals that are completely different from almost everyone else's. At the end of the day, it's a group with no shared values, no founding charter, no common playbook. It's really hard to win a game when everyone's running a different play. So, let's circle back. Is BRICS Plus about to create a whole new world order? Honestly, no. It seems too divided, too internally conflicted, and still too dependent on the old system to actually replace it. But does that mean it's irrelevant? Absolutely not. Its very existence is a huge signal, a massive wake-up call to the established powers that the times they are a-changing.
This quote really sums it all up, doesn't it? BRICS Plus isn't really a replacement for the G7. It's a wake-up call for the G7. It is the sound of a very loud alarm clock going off, telling the old guard that a huge chunk of the world is no longer happy with the status quo. So, when you boil it all down, BRICS Plus isn't really an army getting ready for war. It's more like a giant megaphone. It's the collective voice of what's often called the global majority, billions of people who feel like they've been sitting on the sidelines of history for way too long. And now, they're demanding to be heard. More than anything, this is a fight for a new role, for respect on the world stage.
And that leaves all of us at a massive crossroads. As the plates of global power continue to shift beneath our feet, the really big question is, what comes next? Are we going to build bridges between the old powers and the new, or are we going to build walls? The next chapter of our global story is being written as we speak, and frankly, nobody knows how it's going to end.